Welcome, everybody. I am so excited to introduce my guest, Nancy Napier. When did we first meet? I think we met in the early 2000s.
Oh, at least the early 2000s. It's been a long time.
It was, and I had been using your book, Getting Through the Day, as a sort of textbook for my clients. So I felt like I knew you before I even met you. So Nancy and I have both been around for a lot of years. Nancy you've written like 5 books, 4 books?
Only 4.
Only 4. She has been a trainer in somatic experiencing. She's a clinical hypnotherapist and an incredible supervisor and therapist, still with an active practice. Um, and still, what's still great is you're still creating.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's what makes it so enlivening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, so, it's so ironic because today, I had a client who saw your name because you endorsed my book, Transforming the Living Legacy of Trauma. And so she went to your website and she said, thank you for introducing me to Nancy J. She calls you Nancy J. Napier.
That's the whole thing.
She said, I have always been, I've never had a good fit in the therapy world because I'm too spiritual. And the psychologist and psychiatrist who treated me thought that was a waste of time to talk about. And she said, I went to Nancy's website. I've ordered her book on spiritual practices. And she said, I feel like I've come home.
Oh, thank you. That's
Yeah,
beautiful.
yeah. And she was so excited that we were talking today.
That's so lovely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I do think that it's been too bad that spirituality has been so left out. I notice these days I'm getting a lot of emails of programs that are starting to focus on spirituality. But I remember way, way back when, in the mid 80s, when I started teaching at the Open Center in New York, because of the workshops I was doing, which were oriented at least with some spirituality in them, I started getting calls from Wall Street, from all over the place, of people who had nowhere to go with their spiritual experience.
Wow.
And so it's really been wonderful to see that now therapy is starting to take seriously people's spiritual life.
Right. And and in a way it's kind of the whole culture. There's a huge interest
Right.
in spirituality.
Thank goodness. And it's like also helping people discern what is a spiritual approach that suits them, that keeps them grounded, so they're
Mhm.
not going off away from being grounded here and now.
Right.
But there is such a wide array of things for people to choose from.
Absolutely.
Part of why I went into hypnosis I think I started a year of hypnosis training in 1983. And it was very lucky it was Ericksonian hypnosis, because I was trying to figure a way, having come from California, I rapidly learned in New York City, this was not a highly respected thing to have come. And I thought, now, how can I possibly talk about spirituality and seem like a solid clinical person? But then when I found hypnosis, I thought, oh, I can offer a lot without sounding really woo-woo. I
Yeah.
can
Right.
in through hypnosis. So I was very grateful about that. That made a huge, huge difference, allowing me to mostly be me. I'm more me these days. I'm more out there these days, but it was great to be able to offer people spiritual support in the name of hypnotic work, of,
Right.
moving into wholeness. But I meant wholeness, you know.
Right. Right. Absolutely. And I think, getting through the day um, was so influential because it spoke directly to people. It was not written, well, all your books have been written for
For
people, not just for therapists.
exactly. Yeah. And I think that's just because I as much as I'm an introvert, and I really am, I love people. And
Yes.
being able to support people's process has always been what has made therapy, to me, the most important thing, to help people be more whole, more equipped, more comfortable in the world.
Right.
So
Right.
the
Yeah.
books were just in fact, I remember when I was talking to my editor at Norton, she said, write as if you're teaching to a group, just talk to the group. And she was right.
Huh.
She was
Yeah. Right. Yes. And 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 I think there's, even with getting through the day, which is more hypnotic or more of a hypnotic approach, there's still, well, I think your concept of the future self already living inside us is in a way a spiritual concept.
yes, and it requires kind of the trust one might have of a spiritual source, that you're trusting that what you're calling on will arise and emerge and
Right.
be beneficent, that it'll be something positive and you.
Right. Yeah. So it requires a faith. And I remember when I first read it, I thought, oh my God, I'll never be able to sell this to anyone because all my clients will say, I'm damaged goods, I'm defective, I'm worthless. But but actually, it spoke to them.
Isn't it? It's very interesting, isn't it?
Yeah.
And so now I'll go out to a little of where I live. I don't I don't think, you think about writing a book or having ideas drop in. When I was teaching at the Open Center was when the future self work really blossomed. And it was sort of flowing through me. I wish I could say that I made that up all by myself, but it sounds like I made it up all by myself. But my suspicion is uh, it was an idea that was looking for a home. My grandmother, who was my first spiritual teacher, told me when I was a really little mini, she said, there is a rain cloud of knowable things, and it's raining on everyone all at once. And it's why you see ideas pop up at different times. Even if you think about inner child work, John Bradshaw, Dick Schwartz, and I were all starting to generate our separate versions of parts work exactly at that time. And I thought, yep, that's my grandmother's rain cloud of knowable things, just raining down on people, finding ways to come into the world. And that's the way I've thought about it.
And it's so interesting because the the whole idea of parts has reigned numerous times, but each time it kind of gets forgotten or dismissed or, you know, in I suppose in the same way spirituality does. And and now it's stuck. Now we've got it.
Stay. And was I right in remembering it was the Watsons who were the first people way back in the dissociative disorder work?
Right. Doing hypnotic ego state work.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So they unfortunately didn't get pulled up with this second round that we went into, but I remember their work. It was very important.
Right. Right. Absolutely. So I love your grandmother's idea, and it's just so interesting the way, you know, what these kind of waves of rain that
Yes,
come, and then whatever it is gets forgotten, and it needs a little more rain.
it comes again. And I think the thing it taught me, which has helped me over all these years, is that no one owns an idea.
Right.
That rain cloud is, so I never feel like that's my idea. It's like, oh, yeah, that just moved through me and it moved through who knows how many other people at the same time.
Right. Right. I know. I was telling this same client today. Um, I was saying, I'm not an expert. I'm not right. like, right?
We're all kind of,
You're right.
yeah,
And because it's so interesting that people give us this authority that we don't even want.
right, exactly. And that isn't ours. We're there inviting their wisdom to come out.
Yeah.
I've started recently with a whole other iteration. It's not the future self, but it's working with alternate selves. So there are
Mm.
some books out there now on called quantum jumping, and one of them is by a man named Bert Goldman. And I think he died recently, he was in his 90s. And I don't do it the way he did it, but he talks about if you have, well, I'll give you another example. Jean Houston, who was teaching a class on quantum stuff, she talked about a colleague of hers who had really debilitating Lyme disease outcomes and had for a long time. She took her on an alternate self journey to a version of her that was perfectly healthy.
Wow.
And Jean reports that this woman became 90% free of symptoms. What that said to me, and I don't know if this is true, this is just is that, oh, you know what? A really important part of healing is information transfer. So we take in a new embodied experience, just like blending with the future self. If you blend with an alternate self, you're taking in new information. And I think the body mind creates a new template around that new information so that
Yeah.
slowly new things can emerge. So that's been fun to kind of play with people, with myself too. But
That is very cool because I had a 16-year-old. Well, she probably was 17 or 18 altogether during the time she had Lyme disease. And and basically, you know, she felt like an invalid. She was being treated
Mhm.
like somewhere between a mental patient and an invalid.
Yeah.
And and what I did without having this this idea is I found the kind of the brilliant, creative, um, you know, um, insightful sides of her, and and she felt better. First, she felt better, even though she had the same symptoms, and then gradually the symptoms started to improve.
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah. And then her parents would get all anxious about her and and critical and
Right. And you have to do it all over again.
and then
But
I have to do it all over again. Yeah.
and Janina, that's what you just described. What touches me about that is what we actually are doing is we're drawing out a person's wholeness that they don't know about. It's all there. And I think one of the privileges we have is to invite that into the person's awareness. That's
Wow.
beautiful. She's a really lucky 16-year-old.
Oh, she was unique and brilliant. And it she really knew that side of herself. It just had never been acknowledged.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
So we both gave it a chance to grow.
Isn't that beautiful? It's just that to me, it just fills up my heart because that's the gift we get to experience also.
Right.
People come alive into their potential. Oh, it's lovely. Nice.
Yes. Yes. You can tell I adored her.
Yeah, well, and she was very lucky. I can tell that she let you in also.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And I think that's an important part of what we offer people. We don't talk about loving them or but we they feel it.
Yes, and I think from a spiritual point of view, love is the universal healing frequency,
Right.
right? That it nourishes and uplifts just as the frequency it is.
Right.
That's why I nag people to bits every single day to thank their bodies, to thank the community of non-human entities that comprise these bodies.
Oh,
Fortunate are we, because this community decides to hang in there with us, we get to be here. And I think offering love and appreciation to the body is really helpful for overall health and well-being. That doesn't mean not having stuff happen, but the relationship.
absolutely. So really befriending the body, even as we age, even if we are ill.
Yes.
And I also believe in practicing gratitude to our parts,
Oh, yes.
but that's also important.
Well, don't you think it seems to me gratitude is one of the really important frequencies. I'm on a lot these days about frequencies. And my sister and I were on vacation. We have a sister's vacation every year. And that year, it was 2 years ago, and I had injured my a knee really not really badly. And so I wasn't able to do much. And the last day of our vacation, I looked outside and she was walking on the beach. And I started a wonderful pity party. I will tell you, man, I was going down the hole. And after a couple of minutes, I said to myself, is this really how you want to spend your last day of vacation? No, it took me 10 solid minutes of gratitude practice. But 10 minutes later, it had shifted entirely. And thank goodness for that frequency to be accessible.
Right. Right. And because, and this goes back to your idea of spiritual practices, because, in the moment, you might not feel grateful. It's the practice that allows us to access, um,
Yes,
right?
to be able to pull ourselves back. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. It's so important. Oh, I'm still so touched with your experience with that 16-year-old. That is, to me, that's the gift and the privilege of the work we do.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. And sometimes it's long, and I appreciate the the fact that our clients hang in there with us
Exactly.
and
Yeah.
and and appreciate that we do.
Yes, because I think sometimes it's hard work. Lately, in the last couple of years, I've been focusing on implicit states.
Oh, my
I
favorite topic.
Yeah, I had taken a memory reconsolidation course where the person teaching said, I just want to remind you that we are over 90% lived by our implicit learning, and it's what drives the bus. And something triggered way in the back of my mind, and I thought, oh, I'm not paying enough attention to that. Because you can work the top layers 1,000 times, but if you're not and it has dawned on me, tell me if you agree with this, but it has dawned on me that when a person drops into an implicit state, they are actually in the young body mind, and they're feeling it with the young incompetent nervous system and brain. And my
Right.
goal has been to get the adult body mind to experience it with the young part, not as the young part, so that it's getting metabolized, but in the correct equipment.
Right. And that's the work I love. um, because that's in the end what I just think parts are. Parts hold our explicit experience,
Yes.
and part of that experience is not having been recognized, have not being named, their experience not being named, and I don't mean the details of events.
Oh, good.
Right. Yes. Right. This. and 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 without, I call it, nobody has stayed with them.
Hmm. Hmm.
And so my practice is all about noticing those implicit states as young parts, naming them,
Hmm.
acknowledging,
Right.
validating,
Yep.
expressing gratitude, and it's lovely. And actually, I learned, you talk about this in Getting Through the Day as
Mhm.
giving the feeling back to the part.
Yeah.
And I always thought, that's kind of mean. Why would you give this painful feeling back to the part? So I modified it. Can you notice it? Can you name it? And can you experience it as the part's feeling,
Right.
not your feeling?
Exactly. Yeah. And this idea of metabolizing the,
Yes.
so I'm going to give you a personal, really not very deep, but personal experience I had with this, because I think I mentioned before we came on, I've had two cats die in the last 2 years from kidney disease.
Mhm.
Hard enough on its own. But so when the first cat was dying, he was in the hospital for a day. And while he was gone, I found myself on a Saturday. Synchronicity is a wonderful thing. It was good. It was a Saturday because I was crying unconsolably all day. And I kept hearing myself say, I'm shattered. I'm shattered. Round about 4 o'clock, I went, I'm shattered. I'm shattered. And all of a sudden, I saw an image, not a memory, but just an image of me at 5.5 when my father was kicked out of the family. And I
Mhm.
thought, oh my God, I'm feeling that. And that's the first time for myself, I could not lose the idea that it was an implicit state. So I started working with it when the second cat died, which was just this year. Um, I realized I was just crying like a regular person. And I thought, oh, wow, that is really different when you get the implicit state metabolized. And I always say to the young representative of that state, thank you for being strong enough to get through that because I could be here that way. That's the only way I could be here.
Right, right,
Yeah,
right. Yes. And I often say, thank that part, because without
absolutely.
that part, you wouldn't have survived, and we wouldn't be here having this conversation.
Exactly. I always love how you and I, even though we don't talk a lot, we're pretty close on those.
Definitely on the same wavelength.
Exactly. And I love that because I've had clients, I had a client come back from she comes occasionally. We had our big bunch of work. She was a dissociative client. And when she came back, I started doing this implicit work with her. After every session, she'd go, I hate this. We used to have a good time when we were working because I'm asking her to feel how to feel, actually feel to metabolize, but not as that young state.
Mm,
And it has made such a difference for her. And she is realizing, oh, the reason I'm not having those reactions anymore is that I'm not in that state now.
right.
But hated the word, hated, because it can be so painful if you're working with terror or one of the other unbearables.
Right.
But
Right. And I think it's such hard work
mm,
to separate from those parts
oh,
so that you can notice them.
yeah, exactly, exactly.
I feel that sometimes I feel like I'm torturing people.
I know, but that's our job. Because I always say to people, when you're doing this work, you cannot sit back and let the client do it. You've got to be in their face because otherwise they're flooded and carried away if you don't keep
Yeah.
you here with them.
Exactly. Exactly. And I just wrote a chapter for a psychoanalytic book on my on my parts work model. And it was so interesting because the editor, who is a wonderful, he's Kenneth Frank, who is a New York psychoanalyst, and he's a wonderful, wonderful person. He kept writing back, you know, like, like what, aren't you doing too much? Right? Aren't you guiding the patient? And I was saying, yes, I am
Yes,
guiding the patient
yes.
because the patient is lost
In
in
trauma work, we have,
the world,
yeah,
and that they can't get themselves out by themselves.
no, that's the thing is our co-regulation with them is everything. And I think that's what makes this really hard work possible because we're right there, our nervous system and their nervous system working together. I so cherish the fact of being able to do this work with people because I was saying to someone, I forget where this was, someone was interviewing me, and I said, we get the privilege of watching people come back to life.
Right.
It's amazing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It's right. Right. And they can come back to a life they may not recognize as being their life because they've been
It's
so overwhelmed by the implicit.
right. The implicit, you can see, and I, another thing I have gotten pretty naggy about, but mostly to be sort of like the external observer when the internal is which brain are you in? Are you in the young brain and young and or trauma brain, or are you in the adult brain? Over here, it's either or. Over here, you have options. You can do both and. Where are you right now? And I'll do that through every session to get them to start to go, which brain am I in right now?
Right.
You know why that slide you shared with me for one of my workshops, where you've got just working memory over here and the noticing brain here. Go, I have adopted from that slide, and this was a while back. I use the term noticing brain all the time now,
Oh,
all the time. Cultivating the, I always say Janina called it the noticing brain, and that is exactly what it is. It's been so helpful, by the way, Janina, because it's less prone to misinterpretation than the observer,
right.
right?
Right. Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. And I think, and you probably can recognize, like, when we're meditating, we're not observing, we're noticing.
Or notice, yes,
Right?
yeah,
It's a different quality.
it is. And there's more presence in noticing because you
Right.
have to be there in order. But I always tell them that that slide said the noticing brain goes right down to the amygdala and begins already to offer some calming.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I
That's,
thank you so
that's
much for that.
that's exactly what I've been saying recently. I've been saying, right, this is actually an intervention because you help people stimulate the noticing brain by noticing, which is not hard, and the amygdala starts to decrease its activity and they're less dysregulated.
It's like magic. I mean, I really probably have not adequately thanked you for that because it totally rang so true when I saw it. And I thought, oh, this is wonderful. And I've just been offering that to people ever since. And
Yeah.
honestly, you're right. You have to be here in order to notice.
Right. Right. Yes. Right. A very much a very important side benefit, not a side benefit, another important benefit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
beautiful.
Yeah. How has your your quantum work been received?
It's surprising. So turning the age I am, I was saying to life about a year ago, I said, you know what? When I'm on my last breath, I don't want to have to say, I'm sorry, I was too afraid.
Yes.
And so I have decided in these recent times to just be flat out open. So my multidimensional stuff and quantum stuff, all of my consult groups now, that's woven through everything I do at this point. And
Yeah.
I think that the more we can challenge our linear thinking and open up to the fact we're interacting with realms of probability in every moment, it's not unlike the future self work where we're calling on the optimal future to arrive and come through. This is about pay attention to your intentions, because intentions and probability interact, and really, really notice what frequencies you're resonating with, because that's also it affects a couple of things, the quality of your experience around you, but also think about when you've got clients, or for us, if we're in a fear place or something, it's getting immediately amplified by the collective, because I'm so happy that quantum physics has finally demonstrated entanglement. All of us with a spiritual background sort of know we're all connected, but entanglement. There was a scientist I was listening to who said, if you want to try on entanglement, think about some night when you're out and you look up in the sky, pick the farthest star you can see, and acknowledge you are entangled with that also.
Wow.
Everything. And that then underscores the fact that we are constantly impacting our world, and our world is constantly impacting us. So I have a morning subtle activism practice. And I call it being an energy oyster.
Ah,
So I breathe in collective negative energy, whatever I'm focusing on, burn it up, and breathe out compassion, love, whatever. And I
mm,
figure it's this big, this much activity, but if I do it every single day, like oysters, have you ever seen on Facebook a post where here's this dirty tank of water? They
yeah.
throw a bunch of oysters in, and over here is this crystal clear water,
Mhm.
because oysters are just constantly filtering
Oh,
out what doesn't belong there. And I thought, all right, I can be an energy oyster. I'm very happy to do tongue gland a little bit each morning. So
yeah.
those are all quantum-y kinds of things, recognizing we affect each other, and we're dancing with probabilities all the time.
Right, right. Without being consciously aware of it.
Exactly. And that's why I really invite people to notice the frequencies you're generating and the frequencies you're surrounding yourself with. A client recently, we got onto Zoom, and there was this sound of this terrible argument going on. And I said, are you all right? And she said, oh, I'm on TikTok. Let me get off. And I thought, you're letting your body resonate with what I just heard on that telephone? What must that nervous system feel like, being in that frequency of people fighting, screaming at each other?
Wow.
I thought, no, 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 I don't think all your little community of critters in there really enjoy that energy.
I don't think that's good for your implicit states.
No, for any of it. So I'm very mindful about frequencies, and I challenge my linear brain all the time. I've been reading lately about time folding in on itself, and how I think Larry Dossey in his book One Mind actually talked about this, that the present can affect the future or past, but the future can affect the present. The past can affect if time, if we really understood it, is affecting everything. I mean, it's your brain just goes eek, but
Absolutely. Absolutely. And your implicit learning affects your relationship to time, right?
Oh, everything. If you've fallen into an implicit state, you are now going to be looking at and experiencing the world through that filter.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
I think the implicit healing stuff is probably for me these days is the most important. And from my SE background, I always track for shock trauma because
Right.
shock freezes some part of us from moving forward. And so I listen for shock trauma, but I always listen for implicit states.
Right. And I think, I'm, like you as I get older, I, I, I don't care if people don't like my opinions. Like I used to be so conscious of, oh my God, this opinion is not going to be well received, and I would shut up. And now I just say, this is my opinion. It's okay not to like it, but I like it.
Like, isn't it wonderful to have arrived at that? I'm so surprised to be to feel as free and contented as I do in this age.
Absolutely. Me too.
It's like, okay, I can now just blah, 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 and it's fine.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And actually my goal is to befriend my aging and and give it some grace.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah, well, I think, for me, each decade has actually been more wonderful in terms of being.
Right.
I was telling somebody the other day, someone we were talking about age, and she wrote me an email later and she said, "Hey, listen, I just want to give you a heads up. This woman's 93 or 94. She said, I just want to give you a heads up. The 90s are even better." And I wrote
Wow,
her
I
up,
love it.
thank you. That's what I always say to younger colleagues. Don't worry, all these decades get better and better. But I thought that was really sweet and very inspiring.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I love it. And it's good to think, you know, our our bodies may get more infirm, but our
Absolutely.
minds
Yes.
are sharper and more at peace.
More at peace and yes, and I think for me, aging, when I talk with colleagues who are having trouble with aging, it's aging is a journey of adaptation.
Right.
Things don't remain the same. And if you have the ability to adapt, you're like going, oh, I see.
Right.
The other day I could do that. Now I can't do it that way. Right? That's okay. It is that I can't even explain my gratitude at being the age I am now.
Yeah.
It amazes me. I had no idea that as you get older, you get more settled. Maybe this is what they've called wisdom. I don't know, but it's settled.
Right. I mean, I mean, I've felt it since my 50s. I thought the 50s were such a great decade.
Loved it.
The 60s were great. Then the 70s, I got a little more limited physically. And I began to see, oh, this is just it's it's a mixed process.
A mixed process. Yeah. Well, for me, the 70s were where I started to see, oh, you know what? You're going to have to call a company to come and clean your windows. Actually, you're not going to get up on that ladder anymore. Okay, I see. All right. But I do think being healthy makes a huge difference.
Absolutely.
But still, there's a book on aging. I think it's called Honest Aging. And she may have been the person who talked about the surprise to interviewers when they interviewed people in their later years, even if they were in wheelchairs, they would say, I'm happier than I've ever been.
Right.
It's
Right.
just, it's a little secret that life hides there that you don't expect.
I know, we've just shared it.
It's really, it's like every decade has its gifts and it just gets
Uh,
better.
Absolutely. Oh, it's so nice to talk to you. um, this is great. And I'm just trying to think, are you still doing webinars and workshops?
The last webinar I did was in 2023, maybe 22, because I realized that if I do more webinars, they're probably going to be on spirituality.
Right.
And I thought it's the end of CE stuff for me because I'm going to be teaching stuff that they're going to go, what is she talking about? But I realized anything I've taught before, now other people can, there's so many people out there teaching
Right.
stuff and they're doing fabulous work. And I think for me, I'm just interested in cultivating what I can of what my spiritual understanding is at this point.
Right. And bringing it into your clinical work.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. Oh, absolutely. It's really, I can't tell you in those old days the relief of those people who found me through the Open Center to be
Oh,
able to sit in a room and talk about their spiritual life without being diagnosed.
right. And to be able to talk both about their trauma and about their spiritual lives.
Exactly. Well, to me, I've done classes. One of the spiritual teachers I've done classes with is David Spangler, and he emphasizes wholeness.
Yeah.
Our healing into wholeness. And he talks about the planet healing into wholeness, that's what counts, is giving our body mind a full opportunity to allow life to move through us. I personally feel that all of us, but I'll speak from my personal thing, I am a moment in time where life is getting to have a unique experience. Everyone's unique, and we're all little moments in time.
Right. Right.
We come and
Absolutely.
go.
Right. And 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 actually there's a kind of freedom in accepting that.
Yes, I think so, as well as my increased commitment to give as much as I can to the life that's living me without holding back.
Right. Right. Absolutely. Oh, so thank you so much for doing this.
You are so
I,
welcome.
I enjoyed it.
Well, I was delighted to have an opportunity for us to chat again.
Oh, I know. It's wonderful.
Yeah.
So, we're going to make sure that our listeners get your website because are you still doing meditations on your website?
Yes, and they're also on YouTube every month.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
Great.
And
Uh, I know my client must be enjoying them.
oh, yeah, that's lovely. Well, I pop them up there. I never know how many people actually listen to them, but you know what? It's just that flow
Right.
wants to happen. So,
Absolutely. That's great. All right. Take care, Nancy. Thank you so
yeah.
much.